Hi everyone, welcome back to WebTrio. In this today's tutorial, we are diving into some really fun and powerful visual effects in CSS. This is day 4 of our CSS series, and by the end of this video, you will able to make your web pages come alive with the transitions, transformations, shadows, image effects, and even smiley face, all using just CSS. So grab your code editor and let's get started. Let's see once today's agenda what we have discussed in this tutorial, which is about alpha and opacity, transitions, transform, which is about rotate, scale, translate, skew, box shadow, background image, card over effect, position property, and smiley faces. Let's start with alpha and opacity. Let's begin with something simple but essential: transparency. CSS gives us two main ways. One is alpha and the other one is opacity. Alpha is used with RGBA color function, where A stands for alpha, the transparency level. For example, background color RGBA to 255, 0 and 0.5, which means the red color which sets the transparency to 50%, which dims the uh, brightness of that red color. On other hand, opacity affects the whole element. So if you write opacity to 0.5, your entire box including text border becomes 50% transparent. Let's see an example of the alpha and opacity. In alpha, the background color to 50%, 0.5%, and 255, 0, 0, and padding to 20%, and color of is black. Then a red box that is slightly see through but only the background is affected. Where coming to opacity, the full transparent red box including text and also click events won't work on this unless handled. Now moving to another topic, which is transition and animations. Transitions make change smooth when you over or focus. Let's see an example. Transition background color to 0.3 is, which means the background color changes, it does so smoothly in half a second. Now moving to animations. Animations run independently using the keyframes. Let's see an example. We have to start with the @ symbol and keyframes move from left to left, 0 pixel to 100 pixel, which means completely we are moving. We use animate property to apply the animation. Let's see example code. In this, hovering over the box changes its background from blue to green with a smooth transition. Okay. Now we are moving to transform. In transform, we have rotate, scale, translate, and skew. Let's discuss each in detail. Rotate. Let's start with rotate. This allows us to turn an element clockwise or counterclockwise around its center point. Let's see an example. Transform rotate 45 degrees, which rotates in clockwise direction to 45 degrees. When you over orange square, it spins 45 degrees smooth and clean. Now moving to skew. Want to create slanted chords or dynamic headers or distorted effects? Skew slants elements along the x or y axis. Now see example, transform skew x 20 degrees, which means it rotates along x axis to 20 degrees. Let's compare both rotate and skew. Rotate preserves the shape, skew destroys it. Skew is more for stylistic distortion. Let's see the example code. This is also same. Rotate over to 45 degrees, which means rotate to 45 degrees. And 1.5 means slantly it rotates to along with x-axis to 1.5. Okay, now moving to transform scale and zoom. Scale. Let's talk about the scale. Want to zoom in an image, grow a button or over or string something slightly to show it's disabled. This is your 2. Let's see example, transform scale to 1.5, which means that makes the element 1.5 times more larger from the original one. Whereas coming to zoom, which is non-standard and browser specific. Based on the browser, it will expand its space. Scale is the CSS component where zoom isn't. Zoom affects the layout. Scale transforms the visual. Okay. Now see the examples of the translate and the zoom function. Okay, transform with translate versus margin. What exactly translate will do? This moves element along the x or y axis without affecting the layout flow. It's the perfect for animations. Let's see an example. Transform translate x, which means along x axis to 50 pixels. Over the it slides 50 pixels to right, but everything else stay put magic. Now see about the margin. It adds space around the element. It affects the layout. Example, margin to left, which means which shift to 50 pixel left. What exactly main difference between the translate versus margin? Translate is for animations, whereas margin is for spacing. Translate does not reflow elements. Okay, then let's see here the example. Here we have created one div class. We have named the div class to original box. In that we have applied some styles to that original box. We have transformed the origin to top left and perspective 50 pixel. Now we are discussing about box shadow and text shadow. Box shadows can make your user interface pop, which means let's take an example, box shadow, which is 4 pixel and 10 pixel to gray color, which means it lightly shows the shadow to grain color, whereas a text shadow only affects the text. Example, text shadow to 2 pixel and 5 pixel to black color. Slightly in the words, it will absorb the shadow of that black color. Shadow adds depth to components, whereas text shadow improves the readability and style. This is the example. Now we are moving to background image versus image tag. Here common question is when you use background image versus image tag. use background image for decoration, whereas image tag for to insert the image. Background image sets a style background. Let's take an example. While styling, we have to use background image colon, which URL we have to insert the link or a dot extension of that name of the image and end with the semicolon. It will appear the background image, or else you are taking the image tag, it is used to insert or enables the image as content. If it's just a banner or effect, use background. If it is meaningful content, use image tag. Let's see the comparison between the background and the image tag. Background for design, image for content. Image is accessible and SEO friendly. Now moving, this is the example code. We'll see later. Now over and focus effects. Over will trigger when mouse is over on the element. Let's take an example. We have created one button and you're overing means the color red will appear when you over on that button. Otherwise it will appear in white or whatever the default color it is applied. Now focus. It triggers when element is selected. Input focus border 2 pixel solid blue. When you triggered on the particular element only, it will appear in the solid blue color. Let's see a comparison between the over and the focus. Over for mouse user interface, where focus for keyboard or user interface. Use both for accessibility. No problem. This is the example for over. Now we are moving to position. In that position, we have static, relative, absolute, and fixed and sticky. Let's quickly understand CSS positioning. Static means which is default layout flow. Example, let's say position to static, which means which is fixed 1 year. Relative, shift from original position, which means offsets from the original position. It can change its position. Let's say position to relative. Wherever according to the website it will change its position. Static has no positioning. Relative allows the controlled movement based on the mouse or all the user want to place it. This is the example for static and relative. Now we are moving to absolute and fixed. Absolute is for positioned relative to nearest non-static ancestor, which means positioned inside nearest to non-static, which is not a static ancestor, means before one it will choose and according to that it will take the position and it will place. Let's take the example position absolute and top to 50 pixel. Okay. Now for fixed, position related to viewport means stay at one spot in the viewport. Here is the example. Now compare the both. Absolute scrolls with the page where fixed stays on the screen. Absolute is based on the ancestor of non-static position element. According that it will place. Whereas fixed it is will stays on the screen according wherever we have given the position to that element. Now sticky and fixed. Again we are sticky will scrolls until a point, then it sticks. Whereas always is fixed to a viewport in fixed. Sticky is dynamic, fixed is constant, where sticky works inside scrollable content. These are the examples. Now let's see smiley faces In CSS we will create in the execution part, but I will explain here how to create. Let's take one div box with the border radius. um, let's see, dot I width 20 pixel, height 20 pixel, border radius to 50%, which means it will, the width and height of the dots will be exactly in circle to create this circle. Whereas mouth we will create one semicircular border, and border bottom will add 5 pixel solid black and border radius to 15. Then we'll see this type like a smiley face. Here no image is needed. This is the execution. We will execute and we will see. And in this session we have covered all the interesting topics of CSS Visual Effects, transparency, which is about alpha and opacity, transformations, where to place the exactly and which degrees to place. Now positioning. Positioning is about related to which position we have to place all the elements. Over and shadow backgrounds we have discussed, and we have compared with each and every of the transparencies and transformations and positionings. Now we use CSS effects to enable user interface. Use transitions, shadow smartly. Like, share, subscribe to Web Trio. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more awesome tutorials.